Hello and welcome to another routergods video. My name is Humphrey Chung. Today is February 10th, 2014. It's definitely been a while since I've done my last Cisco video, couple months, and I've survived all the craziness in Thailand and back in the United States, back on the CCIE study train and going for my third attempt in May, so that's going to be in about 3 months. This video is for people who are going for their CCIE and are looking at Narbik stuff, Micronics, Narbik, or have already decided on Narvik's stuff or purchased Narbik stuff and are asking, what do I do now? I've spent all this money on the boot camp. I've attended the boot camp. I've got the workbooks. I've got this stack of stuff in front of me, 50 billion PDFs. What do I do? So reason for making this video is I get asked quite a bit about what Narvik offers, and I also get asked pretty much daily, what's the best way to start my study program? I've gone to the boot camp, great. I've been to the 2 weeks of hell. What do I do? This video is mainly meant for people rushing to complete their version 4 before the June 3rd cutoff. But if you're going for version 5, most of this stuff in this video will still be relevant. If I fail to answer any questions you may have, go ahead on the bottom of the YouTube video, just make a comment, ask me a question, and I'm going to do a future video in a couple weeks or whenever, answering all those questions in another video. So a little bit of a warning to you guys, this video will not talk about the differences between Narbik and INE. I've already done that whole spiel in a blog post, and I'm already assuming that you've already decided on getting your CCIE. You've decided to spend the year of your life committing the time. You're a full bore into CCIE. I don't need to convince you of that. All right, so Narbik's website, micronicstraining.com, is mainly how he deals through his website. He also has a Facebook account that's under, you can either get them directly with Narbik or you could go for Micronics training, but I prefer to just go through the website, micronicstraining.com. What does he offer? Well, if you go to his website, I'll just move this off a little bit. So you go to this website, you can see that he and his company teaches several tracks. We got routing and switching, security, data center, service provider. His specialty is really routing and switching, service provider, and security. Not really in that order, but I would say routing and switching would be the primary thing that Narbik is known for. Two things are his boot camp and his workbook. So when you go to routing and switching, you will see instructor-led training, which are his boot camps, and the workbook, which come in two forms, PDF and in physical. Now, by default, if you just want to order workbooks, which is, some people do that, they don't have the money saved up for a boot camp just yet, and so you want to start off small and go for workbooks. And this is a very inexpensive way of doing it, and if you have less than the required amount for a boot camp and you don't want to spend all the money for travel just yet, then workbook is just fine. Now, he offers several levels of workbooks. If we go to workbooks and click on that deal, you'll see that he offers, there we go, kind of bombed out there. Okay, so he offers foundations, as you can see on the pop-out, advanced routing and switching, and advanced bootcamp. Foundations is probably where you're going to spend most of your time in studying. So what a workbook is I can't really show you because one of the things with the workbook is they are protected with Lock Lizard, and here I'm using Camtasia screen capture. It will bomb out, Camtasia will bomb out as soon as I open up these workbooks. But that's fine. I'll talk a little bit about the protections a little bit later. It's not that big of a deal when you get used to it. But foundations, it's going to be divided into several topics: frame relay, switching, OSPF. In each topic there's going to be several labs. and you're going to be doing those either in Gns3, real gear, or also with a rack rental is fine too. Now, by most of your time in foundations, you're probably going to spend a good 75% of your total study time in foundations because if you're just getting into this, there are a lot of technologies to learn, and foundations really gets your feet wet in there. Uh, Now, myself, I've spent probably more than a year doing foundations. So I just wanted to cement everything before going on to anywhere else. And it's also, you'll be coming back to these workbooks as you study because you'll start forgetting things, and I'll talk about that later, dealing with the forgetting curve here. Okay, after foundations, we got advanced routing and switching. Now the topics are pretty much the same as you go through the different level of workbooks. It's just when you do the labs, a little bit more is going to get thrown in there. And then Advanced Bootcamp 4.0 is kind of the last level. He also offers the troubleshooting workbooks. Now, it is perfectly fine to just purchase Foundation Workbook 5.0 off the bat. Don't know why this doesn't come up very well. Okay. For some reason it bombs out. So if you're tight on a budget, Foundation Workbook 5.0, bam, done. If you want to get a deal on all the workbooks, you can get the workbook bundle, which basically throws all the workbooks in for a single price. Now, Narbik is most known for his boot camp. And the boot camp is under instructor-led training. He offers two versions, a 5-day and a 12-day. I recommend going for the 12-day, just man up, pay the $4,500, go for the 12-day. Now, when you sign up for the boot camp, you're going to get the workbooks along with it. So it's instructor-led training plus the workbooks. So what I suggest is, if you know you're going to take the boot camp anyways, you can sign up for the boot camp and just pay for the boot camp, sign up, and just not take the boot camp right away. Just say, hey, I'm signing up, I'm paying for the boot camp, but I want to take the boot camp 9 months out, 10 months out, whatever. And he does have a schedule up here. If you go to instructor-led training, boot camp, let's click on the 5-day just for the heck of it. You can see the 5-day is $29.95. And he offers a schedule with dates and places. Now notice he has Glendale, he goes international, Warsaw, Malaysia, comes back to Glendale, goes around the United States, Australia, because he's from Australia, Netherlands. So there's some fun places here. Now, if you're in the United States, you're probably going to pick something in the US that's close, and that's fine. What I opted to do is I'm close to Glendale, so I go there quite a bit. But also last year in August, he was teaching in Malaysia, so I decided to make a little trip out of it, and some people do that too. So kind of like a half vacation, half boot camp. So you sign up for a boot camp, pay for it. You don't have to take the boot camp right away. Don't feel pressure to take it the next week or the next month. Just say, hey, going to take it 10 months out. I want the boot camp in November. Janet, Narbik's wife, is going to send you the PDFs of the workbooks so that you can practice right away. So that's a really good deal. You're going to get all the workbooks, and another cool thing is when you get to the boot camp, you're going to get physical copies of the workbooks. Right? Now, ordering through the website, if you just order the workbooks, the physical versions are more expensive. Okay, so if we go over here, workbooks, let's take a look at foundations. Let's scroll down here, workbook options. You can either have it electronic and printed. Let's see how much it is electronic. So $200, good price. Printed is $350, so it's not too bad. But the reason for the price discrepancy is that Narbik's told me that the printer We're talking thousands and thousands of pages if you want to print out these workbooks, and they're in full color, which is pretty good. So that's another reason I really like his workbooks is it's color coded, red, blue, green, all types of different colors. So the answers and his explanations really stand out. Okay, so $200 for the electronic version, a little bit more for the printed version. Once again, when you take the boot camp, you get electronic before the boot camp, pretty much right when you pay, and then you get the printed versions during the boot camp. Also, what's cool is you, depending on the boot camp, it's kind of different every time. But one boot camp I went to, he gave me a version that was all questions, which was really nice. So it allowed me to practice a little bit more because in the regular workbooks, you've got the question and then the answer right after it. So your mind kind of cheats you sometimes. Your brain and your eyes just look right at the answer. With the question only workbook, physical workbook, you can practice on it and then not look at the answer, practice, 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 and then finally bring out the PDF to look at the answer. So less ways to cheat or less temptation to cheat. Okay. Oh, prerequisite before starting CCIE Foundations. You should really have CCNP. I know some people decide to skip CCNA and CCNP, or maybe they just have CCNA. You really should have CCNP before doing foundations. Not a complete requirement, but I've seen people struggle trying to understand foundations. Now, how much time should you spend in foundations? I think I already told you you're going to be spending several months to a year or more. And how many times should you do these labs, and how should you approach these labs? You're going to be doing these labs over and over again, and the first time you don't even know the command. Let's say it's some complicated OSPF thing like suppress a forward address, right? You've never seen this before. You don't know how the command works. The first couple times doing that lab, you're just learning the commands. Everything's new to you, so you don't even know how it looks normally. After that, after you get that command down, you should purposely screw things up, mistype stuff, go crazy on the show commands. You should be looking kind of also at the Cisco documentation and kind of just digging deep into that task. Right? So first couple times, just learn how to do it correctly, and after that, kind of do it almost incorrectly just to see how it looks, because that troubleshooting section is going to be, you're going to have to practice a lot in looking at spotting incorrect things. So it's kind of flipping it around. Dealing with the forgetting curve, let's bring up Smooth Draw. Smooth Draw just came out with version 4. So excuse my horrible drawing, but when you study a particular topic, you're going to see that your knowledge is going to go up, drastically. You're also going to find out that if it's a new topic, your knowledge is going to go up, and then it's going to kind of plateau out, something like that. So this could be like OSPF. Well, as you're going through your workbook, you're going to go to the next section, let's say BGP, and BGP, the curve is going to look similar. Your knowledge is going to go up. But while you're studying BGP, your OSPF knowledge is slowly degrading, right? And this is a common thing that you're going to experience in CCIE. The way I explain to other students how this works is imagine all the topics to be water jugs or bottles of water, let's say. So you have a bottle of water for EIGRP, a bottle of water for OSPF, bottle of water for switching, BGP, so on. You're filling up the bottle of water, the one that you're studying. So if you're studying MPLS, it was empty before, you're filling that up. But imagine some guy comes along and pokes holes at the bottom of all the bottles. Well, you're filling one up almost to full. Yeah, you're studying MPLS. You've bought that Cisco book. You're going through Narbik's MPLS labs. Well, the RIP and OSPF, all that stuff is slowly leaking out, and if you don't revisit that soon, it's going to be almost empty. So you're going to do all of BGP, let's say, and then when you go back to OSPF, you're going to find that, whoa, I forgot how to do all this stuff. Right? Don't worry about it. This is perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. So what you should do is a cycle between the different topics. You're going to be studying BGP, and let's say you burn out completely of BGP. You don't want to see any more BGP. That's fine. Go back to OSPF, go back to EIGRP, do a couple of those, and then flip back to BGP or go to a completely different topic. What I personally like to do is I like to study a topic for 3 days. All right? So OSPF, we'll do O, that's a horrible O, but I'll do OSPF and only OSPF for 3 days. And then I'll switch to a different topic like EIGRP for 3 days, and then BGP for 3 days. Now you're probably asking, how do I track all of my stuff? You could use paper. Definitely you could use paper, but if I show you, let me show you a way to do this. Let me move this off screen so you don't get my personal email stuff. So on the routergods page, I've got a couple resources for you. When you go to routergods, go to resources. I've got the Narbik study planner. If you click on that, it's going to bring you to a page with the PDF. So we got this PDF version. You can print it out, and you can see here that it lists all the tasks, all the labs for Foundation Volume 1, Volume 2, Advanced, so on and so forth, right? So basically all the labs for all of the workbooks. As you complete each lab, you're going to put down here the date, and if you want, put down the time. Now the first couple times, don't even track the time. It's going to get discouraging. You're going to run into MPLS that first lab and you're going, well, what the hell is this? And it might take you several hours to do. That's fine. Just put down the date that you started and finished, and you'll be fine. And then this is the first time you do that lab. That's the second time. That's the third time. And you could extend this out if you want. You get the picture. And then as you fill this up, you can do either the labs from top down, kind of I'll do lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, lab 4, lab 5, and then cycle back, lab 1, lab 2, die. Or what you can do is you could do all of frame relay, skip ahead, all of RIP, and all of EIGRP. So you're going to do 3 groups of topics: frame relay, RIP, EIGRP. When you finish EIGRP, go back to frame relay for your second time. Go back to RIP for your second time in EIGRP. So you're going to run through 3 topics twice, and then you're going to add in the next topic and do that a couple times. So everyone has a different way of doing it. I know INE has a blog that's has just kind of a formula on how to do it, but it's all comes down to you have to periodically refresh topics that you haven't hit in a couple weeks, just so you bring it back up to 100% or hopefully close to it. Okay, you've bought your workbooks. They all come in LockLizard PDF. How does that work? Well, these PDFs are tied to a computer, whether a laptop, a desktop. I suggest putting it on your laptop. Now you may be asking yourself, what if I have 2 laptops? Or what if I have a desktop and a laptop, which is a common scenario? Very easy. When you get a new computer or you want to put these PDFs or open them on a different computer, just email Janet and they will go into their administrative console and send you another license key. It's fine. Some students also want to view these on an iPad, and there is a Lock Lizard viewer on an iPad. That's fine. You just email Narbik or Janet, and they will hook you up to get that activated. So that's not a problem. Now, a lot of people ask me, do I need a constant connection to the internet to use these workbooks? Because Lock Lizard does call home and does check with some type of server up on the internet. Now, the answer is no, because it doesn't need to be on 100% of the time, but I don't know what the frequency is, but every couple of times or every several times or every week, I don't know, but it needs to call back. So you need to connect to the internet once in a while, but it doesn't need to be a completely constant connection. Some people ask, how should I organize all of these workbooks? Because you're going to be getting lots of files. Let me show you. You should be popping it on SkyDrive, Dropbox, some type of cloud storage. Don't keep it local because something could happen on your laptop. So here I've got SkyDrive. I have a Cisco folder that's organized. You can see this is my Cisco 360 stuff, my books and PDFs. I've made a Narbik folder. Inside the Narbik folder, I've divided it into Foundation, Advanced Routing and Switching, Advanced Bootcamp. So those are the three workbooks I'm playing with. Let's go into Foundation. There I keep the PDFs, the Lock Lizard. It's .pdc. You can see that I've made a folder called PDFs and Visios. What this is sometimes I want to start a problem and I just want to look at the topology instead of flipping back and forth on the Foundation, because you'll find that as you practice with the workbooks, you're doing a lot of scrolling up and down because the topology is at the beginning of the lab and the tasks keep going, and then there's 50 pages of tasks and you have to constantly flip back and forth. Believe me, by the second month of you doing any of these workbooks, you will have these topologies memorized. It will not be a problem, but it does get kind of a pain in the ass to flip back and forth, especially on MPLS, because you're dealing with the humongous topology. So what I did is I reversed engineered. I just went nuts with Visio and just kind of recreated some of the topology. So completely optional. You don't have to do that, but you can see that I've organized everything here. Here's the advanced routing and switching. So that's kind of how I roll with the PDF. Okay. Another question, when should I move on to the next stage of workbook? I've done Foundation 5.0 until my eyes have bled. Where do I go from here? When should I move into advanced RNS? So let me give you a alternate way of studying. We're back to the study planner. An alternate way of studying for those who are pressed for time is you go into Foundation and you do the frame relay labs, right? Run through it the first, 1, 2, 3 times, let's say, labs 1 through 5. Then what you do is you go into advanced routing and switching, which is the next level up. And you can see we've got 9 labs here. Do those a couple times. So you're staying completely within one topic. You're just increasing in difficulty. And then go into advanced bootcamp. Oh, that's volume 2. Advanced bootcamp right here. Do the advanced bootcamp frame relay lab. Right? So stay within the topic, just move up vertically. And as you can guess, let's say we were doing OSPF. You do OSPF in Foundations, then you do OSPF in Advanced Routing and Switching, and then in Advanced Bootcamp. That's one way to do it. Okay, organizing files, I talked about that. Keeping track of your notes. Where should you keep track of your notes? I'm an old school Notepad++, Notepad guy, and I save everything into SkyDrive. That's fine. You could use your Google Drive. That works too. Also, what you could do is you could go into any of the cloud note-taking services is fine too. Okay, as far as the last question I think I'm going to answer here, when should you or how should you plan out your gear? Okay, so should you do physical gear? Should you do a rack rental? Should you do a Gns3 or a Frankenstein rack? Or should you go IOU? Many different options. You're probably going to do all of them, all right? If you have your own rack of gear, that's fine. It it works. It does take a while to boot up. What I have seen in my study groups is almost everyone has a physical rack, but they end up going with GNS3 and IOU most of the time just because you're up and running instantly rather than waiting for the rack to boot up, and everything's local on your laptop, which is cool. Uh, Now, if you want to go for a rack rental service, if you're a Narbik customer, he offers a 24/7 for 30-day rack rental for $300. Smoking hot deal. Just be advised, he does request that if you're not using it, you have a login to the power strip. Just shut it off. And also, they do tend to be rented out. So the slots for those are in very high demand, and especially now because everyone's going for V4. For online rack rentals, I use a place called CC Online Labs. They're not paying me. It's just I've used their services and it works. It's fine. I'm sure there's other rack rental places as well that work just as well. Also, speaking about endorsements, Narbik is not paying me at all. He doesn't know I'm doing this video. Well, I guess now he does. But there's no compensation at all for this video. I'm just letting all of the routergods members and anyone who's watching this video know how to take full advantage of their investment that they've plunked down, because it's pretty significant to plunk down all this money for boot camps and stuff. Okay, when to do your boot camp. So I'm probably gonna, I'll just keep this in one part video and then you could scroll through it. Now, when to do the boot camp. Should you do it in the beginning or should you do it at the end or in the middle somewhere? Now, you're going to be doing this boot camp multiple times. And because he allows you to retake the boot camp as many times as possible. I think I've gone to 4 or 5 of his boot camps already. Now, sometimes I just come for a day or two, but other times it's been the whole shebang. But when to do it? I recommend against taking it at the beginning of your studies. So if you haven't even done the Foundations workbook, highly recommend against going to the boot camp because you're not going to understand anything. And also, there's going to be a Cisco 360 assessment. There's going to be 2. And those assessments are really, really good, but it's going to be completely worthless because you don't know how to do anything. You're going to die in frame relay. You're going to die in switching. And the sad part about the assessments is Cisco charges Narbik several $100s for these assessments. And you only take that assessment once. So even though you can take the boot camp multiple times for free, you only get the Cisco 360 assessment on your first go around. So this is what I saw in Malaysia, is that several of the people hadn't done a lot of the foundation workbook. They got it, but maybe they only did a couple labs. So in the assessment, they just said, I'm going to skip it. Well, that's an expensive assessment that you're just, throwing in the trash. So take it somewhere in the middle of your studies. So as you are finishing foundations, then take the boot camp. Your assessment will tell you kind of what your knowledge is, but the most important thing about the assessment, it's there to show you that CCIE is a killable test. In that, if you're able to get through most of the assessment, the first assessment, okay, doesn't mean you're exactly ready for CCIE just yet, but it just shows you that, hey, it can be done. It just takes a hell of a lot of studying, but it's not impossible. Now, the boot camp has 2 assessments. The first day, you're going to take a really cheesy one, in my opinion. But it goes all the way up to BGP. It's not really that complicated. And most people who take the bootcamp, they're okay. On Thursday night, that's the killer one where it starts at 8 p.m. after a full day of lecture. That goes until 4 a.m. And that's the full shebang. It's using you get the troubleshooting part first, and then you go into the config. That is cool. That is cool. But that one, if you haven't done foundations, complete waste of time because you will die in frame relay, which is what I've seen several times. It just got killed in frame relay, and that was the whole thing. So let's see, when to do the boot camp? We answered that. You can retake the boot camp as many times. As I said, I've taken his boot camp about 5 times. Another cool thing about the boot camp, and one good reason why you should go, in addition to getting the workbooks, in addition to the assessments, in addition to Narbik's way of teaching, it's a great way to network. You're talking with other people who are crazy enough to take this test, make a lot of contacts. I stay in touch with everyone. It's also great for professional networking if you're looking for a job. Like, people get jobs from this. It's pretty nice. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up by talking about resources on routergods. Once again, if you have any questions after this, put it in the comments. I'll make a follow-up video. In routergods, we've got Gns3 Configs. So if you want to use Gns3 for most of your studying, which I recommend, then you could download the Gns3 configs. Also have instructions on how you use them. Periodically I update this, but for most part this works out very well. I've had people email me saying that it's helped them out quite a bit. Now, of course, Gns3 currently does not do switching, but that will hopefully change within 2 weeks. The Gns3 guys are about to come out with their beta of the new version that leverages IOU for the switching. Speaking of IOU, I know I'm not officially supposed to talk about that. Cisco doesn't like it, but you could use that. They're going to be having their viral, I can't even say it, viral, I think they changed the name to CML, whatever the hell that stands for, but it's been delayed, so God knows when that's coming out, but that is a worthwhile thing as well. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you, always use real gear. You know what? That's bullshit. Real gear is fine, but you're going to find out that what use is real gear if you don't want to spend all the time waiting for it to boot up and it's not on your laptop. So Gns3, it gets you 80% of the way there, 90% of the way there. It's always available. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night with a question, bam, open up your laptop, drag in 2 routers, link them, and you can practice there. All right, so this was we're at the 33-minute mark. Video about people who are looking at Narbik stuff. We ran through the workbooks, what they offer, the boot camp. That's the 2 main things that he has. And also, if you've already bought Narbik stuff, how to take full advantage of it. Pop the stuff into SkyDrive, how to study, download the study planner. I recommend use the study planner, stay with one topic, go up through the workbooks, and just keep practicing until you got all the topics. Now, when you get to the end, when you're almost to the end of your study, if you want good practice labs, I recommend the Cisco 360 Practice Lab Workbook. You're going to get 35 labs, but concentrate on the last, I think it's 5 labs, 29 through 35, 5 or 6 labs. Those are the ones that are updated for V4, and practice with those. All right, my name is Humphrey Chung with routergods. Thanks for watching.